What is going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. What is up, chat? How is everybody doing? We are now live, man. Shout out to everybody already in chat hanging out with us, man. It is another beautiful Saturday evening. So shout out to you guys hanging out with us, man. Do some quick shout outs here. Talos, Shonsu Mod of the Year, RSJ, a bunch of other people in chat. Appreciate you. If you are watching, shout out to you guys as well as people in the future that are going to click on this video and watch it. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate the support, man. We got a phenomenal show lined up. It's been a lot going on in game, and every single week is something going on, man. It's been pretty much nonstop. If you're being honest, I don't think we've had a lull at all this year, and I think we can all agree on that. We haven't had that like lull in news. Every week's something's going on. So it's awesome to see the consistent news. So shout out to everybody in chat. But let's get to our guest, man. And this man really needs no introduction. He is the extended family. Shout out to FSP and FSP family. I'm sure a bunch of them gonna show up in chat. Shout out to y'all. What's up, Gabe? What's up, back? But Mr. Mav, aka Fun Speculation, hanging out with us, man. How you doing, Mav?
Yo, I'm doing okay. Been running around. We went to a trunk or treat thing a little while ago
Nice.
for with my daughter and her friend, and we kind of took them shopping and ran some errands, and they got some takeout. So I just got done
Nice.
eating. So it's been a fun day so far. Ready to play some games tonight. Get in some of that COD, and yeah, dude. But been having a lot of fun this past week. Just dabbling in different games, Gotham Knights and Call of Duty, and see what else I've been playing. NBA as always. So
Okay.
that's kind of my main things right now.
Okay, staple. Okay, no. Once again, awesome, man. Appreciate you. Shout out once again. Matt really needs no introduction. This is extended family. Shout out to Caitlin, Jasper, 3-Bit, everybody over there at the FSP umbrella. I got a couple people here who we happen to share some similarities here, some common
Yeah,
denominators, man. My two
yeah.
right
Feel
hand
right at
man.
home with these
Yeah,
guys, right?
right. Right. So as you know, once again, man, we appreciate you. You guys always support and show us and showing us love in the chat. What's up, Blue? How you doing, brother? But we got Mr. Pong Soul, Pong Harvey. How you doing this week, brother? I know it's been a hectic week. You kind of mentioned that pre-game
Yeah,
here, but how you been?
always hectic. I feel like a broken record whenever I talk about this, but yeah, it's been a hectic week. Again, it is what it is. Some of it good, some of it not good, but it's all the same. I got worn out last night. Couldn't play with the family on some COD, but no. Otherwise, everything's been great. Just been getting in a little bit of gaming here and there. I spent the week finishing out the Call of Duty campaign before the multiplayer launched. I wanted to get that knocked out. So got that done. Absolutely fantastic. I know some people, have had some less than stellar words for it, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's a 90s action flick, exactly what I want on my Call of Duty. Arnold Schwarzenegger or Stallone could be starring in it. It'd be perfect.
Did it feel a little bit more like a Clancy movie almost to you as well? With the
Some of the
twist?
parts, yeah, and some of the twists, but they were pretty tropey twists, right? Like I
Yeah.
saw a lot of it coming. It wasn't like really deep, right? So that's why I say it's like one of those 90s action flicks, like, where you saw things coming, but you just were enjoying yourself, right? You're just eating your popcorn, enjoying
Well,
the hell
it's
out
the
of it.
set pieces and the characters,
Yes,
really. It's always
yes,
been that,
yes,
right?
yes,
That's what the COD
yes.
single player's been about. It's the Michael Bay. It's the explosions. It's
Yeah.
the, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked some of they got a couple levels. I'm sure everybody, I'm not going to spoil anything, but they've got a couple levels where there's some crafting to it. I actually enjoyed that. I know some people didn't.
Mhm.
They thought it brought down the pacing or whatever else, or just didn't like the crafting aspect of it. I thought it was cool. It was something different. They did try to do something different. I did have a couple problems with a couple of levels where I, was like, really, really, this is what we're doing. But overall, game was fantastic. Had a great time. First COD campaign I beat in a long time, actually through and through. So that was cool. And then, of course, opening night, we jumped in and then jumped out and then jumped in and then jumped out because they had a lot of connections issues. All right. So we get to play one match and then half the squad would be out of the match next. So there was a lot of that, but they've cleaned that up as of today. I have played some today. Steele and I were just on it. Having a great time with it. It is Call of Duty is back. It is freaking fantastic. Again, you're never going to make this entire fan base happy. There's no way. It's just like Halo. But for me, this is close to the old school Call of Duty. This is like getting those feelings back. Every single map is phenomenal so far. Loving the hell out of it. They've got more modes than they've ever had before. Haven't even touched a lot of those modes outside of the beta. So can't wait to jump into those like Ground War and Spec Ops, which I've not had a chance to try either. So yeah, just having an absolute blast. Played a little Signalis too. I got to give a shout out to Signalis. That just dropped into Game Pass. The Game Pass this week. Some people might have missed it. It is an indie game. It is a horror, old school horror, Resident Evil, early Resident Evil style horror. That top down kind of view. They do some interesting things where you go into first person view in some of the scenes, puzzles, collecting key cards. You've only got 6 slots of inventory, so you got to do inventory management, just like the old Resident Evil games. But it's got an anime aesthetic to it, like an old school anime aesthetic, which is just phenomenal. So I haven't played a whole lot, played like 45 minutes on that, but loving it so far. Going to hop back into that. And listen, just got a huge backlog. I played Persona 5 last weekend, got a block of time, played about 5-6 hours last weekend. Haven't been back to it because I haven't had a block of time, and I need those blocks to play Persona. But phenomenal for a game as well from what I've been playing there. And then I still got Scorn sitting there. And of course, I still got Plague's Tale, Requiem sitting there as well. So games, more games, PTK. That's what it's all about. But we got some news. We got a great guest, of course, brother from Another Fun. Speculation is here.
Oh, yeah.
Feel like I've seen him a bunch this week, which I have. So we are back home again. Let's get down to business.
Man, shout out to you, man, every single week. Bringing the energy. If you don't know Pong Soul, the Duracell Battery of the Shop podcast, man, every single week bringing that great energy. Shout out to you, Pong. Shout out to Spendiferous in chat, too, man. Blue, Talos, like I said, Shown too, man. You guys are awesome. Once again, retweet that link. Let everybody know the Shop podcast is live. Come go ahead and, end that Saturday evening the right way if you missed out on all that great gaming news this past week. Hang out over here, get caught up on that, have a good time, kick your feet up, man. Once again, we appreciate all the continued support, man. And what is up, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere? How you been this week, brother?
Oh, I've been doing pretty good, man. It's great to be here with you guys, and yeah, some pretty interesting stuff happened throughout the week, and I guess we have to, not question any more profitability of certain services and not have these economic debates like we're running for some sort of public office. But man, oh man, it's been fun this week. Just been playing my usual stuff, a little bit of Division, a little bit of GT7, back into Forza Horizon 5 with the 10th anniversary season thing going on. I pretty much got all the cars except for the last two for, I guess it's the summer season's the next one. So that's the one spring's the next one. So that's, I got to just, get those 40 points and get those cars. But other than that, just enjoying the campaign. Haven't finished the campaign of Modern Warfare just yet, but plan on doing that before this weekend's over with, and probably hopping on and doing some multiplayer with the family here later on tonight if possible. But
awesome.
Man, let's get started.
Man, let's get started. Shout out to everybody in chat, General Spartan, Stuff, Sean, Splendiferous. You guys are awesome, man. Kick your feet up, hang out with us. This is the best place to be on Saturday evenings, bar none. Appreciate you guys, man. But let's get into it, man. So we starting with the poll of the week. And if you're new here, follow me on Twitter every single Monday. Poll of the week goes up. If you want to participate in that, all that information is down in the description as usual. So appreciate you guys if you want to go ahead and do that. But poll of the week this week, it's Game Pass related. So essentially it was by your best guess, how many games have you played via Xbox Game Pass? Shout out to everybody who supported the poll and actually voted. So I had a couple different options. I had 10, 20, 30, and or 50 plus was the last option. So that option actually ran away with the actual poll. 52% voted. So essentially that means people are going in Game Pass and using it for the reason why it was created. And essentially the variety of options, not having a paywall makes it very easy to go in. You don't feel like you've wasted money if you play a game and you don't really enjoy it. So that makes it easy to go in and do that. So we're going to start with our guests. And once again, chat, let us know how many games have you guys actually downloaded via Game Pass and or bought via Game Pass. Let us know in chat right now. Appreciate the support. But we're going to start with our guest, Mav. Mav, I know you play everything. So you're pretty, you're not super, it feels like you're not super strict about what you play. But so how many games would you say you played, or where would you vote in this poll?
Man, I would definitely vote for the 50 plus. I feel like I would need to have all of the above to add them all together to get close, right?
Okay, that's fair.
Because Game Pass is pretty awesome, and now I may not play a lot of each game that I like that I play, but I like to try games out and see if it's for me. You know what I mean? So that's the best thing about it. The arguments that you've seen for so long about why would you like pay $15 or $10 a month when you can just buy the game and it's like a way more expensive. Like that's if you're comparing it to one game. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
nobody. I understand that certain games bring attention because like people are looking for that deal right away. But I think the value of Game Pass isn't just in one specific title. Obviously, it's in the breadth of options that you have. The day one content that keeps hitting like weekly, pretty much on there. So there's always something to try. That's what I love the most about it. It's actually changed my gaming habits more than anything ever uh, with gaming because you don't have to be fearful of wasting your money, right?
yeah,
About, oh, okay, I have this amount of money to spend. I gotta allocate it to this or game or that game or whatever. And in fact, it's actually caused me to be able to buy other games that I wouldn't have otherwise because I have the save the money on games that I would have bought. You know what I mean? So um great service, man. And yeah, definitely the biggest option is the answer there for me. Yeah, I don't know the exact number. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's hard to go back and count, but how long has it been in service now? Like 2017,
I
2016?
believe one
17,
of
yeah.
the 17 or so.
Yeah,
I
so
believe.
Late
seven,
17 or early
yeah.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like
So
that.
I've been there since day one on that service, and I feel like there's always something to try. So
Yeah.
I love Game Pass, and I love that it's proven as a successful model in gaming as well now. For sure.
No, absolutely, 100% agree. So you hit the nail on the head. We could actually end that topic right there if we actually didn't have we actually didn't have all this extra time on the show. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I do agree. It's changed my habits as well. I've gotten into games that I never would have played, and I think that's the beauty of Game Pass.
Yeah.
That you don't have that regret, that buyer's regret that, hey, if I buy this game and don't like it, I'm not gonna play it. Thus far, it has no value to me at all. You know what I mean? So you go into Game Pass, you have Game Pass, you go and try, you don't like it, you uninstall it, you don't even have to touch it or ever look at it again. There's no remorse that you spent money on it. How is that a bad thing? How is that a bad thing? And on top of that, like you said, it's caused you to purchase games. Maybe there are games that you just want to support. I found games that I played that I bought just because I want to support the developer. You know what I mean? Like the game may never be right as big as it probably should be, but just because I want to support the developer, it's allowed me to go in and like buy a game. You know what I mean? And say, you know what? I like this game just because I'm gonna actually spend money, in that ecosystem, spend money on that developer. And I think that's a really cool thing. So I don't know where you're at on that, man.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just the more that we have options there is going to bring in more people, and for me as changing the gaming habits, it's more of just okay, the decision making process is gone. You know what I mean? So it's no longer even when you think about other rental services back in the day, right? Going in front of like Blockbuster or something, or like
Yeah.
even Gamefly or whatever, you can check out one title. It's still a decision. You know what I mean? It's like the only decision we have to make now is for hard drive space.
Yeah.
It's like, and then that's expandable. So if you really want to go out there and spend all the money you can, it's you can expand that like crazy. But it's just it's changed the fact that I spend more time playing games, or less time playing one specific game. I'll say that. You know what I mean? As opposed to now, I'm like trying this game, trying that game, and then going back to playing some of the games that I love the most.
That's
But
that grazer lifestyle that
yeah.
Pong talks about.
Yeah, but like you find things like I would have never bought Power Wash Simulator and actually spend the amount of hours that I spent on that, but it was like enjoyable, chill experience because of Game Pass. Like there's so many examples of that. As Dusk Falls, I would have not have bought in that game, no way.
Oh yeah.
But I ended up loving it. Pentiment, I wouldn't be buying that game probably, but I'm gonna try it, and you know what? It could be one of those games that I end up loving. So. That's the beauty of it. And people say, well, why would you subscribe to a service to play games that you don't want? it's because I discover the games that I do want that I never had a chance to find out about before, because I'm not gonna go spend money on something I don't know if I'm gonna like. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
who does that? Like, I'm gonna go spend like 60 bucks, 50 bucks on this because like it could be okay. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really feeling it,
Yeah.
but it's something that could be cool. Usually it's excitement that gets you to buy something in gaming, right? It's either you're hype level for it or like or you get FOMO because like the hype excitement's in the community, but like there's a lot of things here that like are just under the radar stuff. And the catch is they also got the big things coming too, right? So all these games I was gonna have to spend next year, spend money on next year, $60. Some of them maybe even end up being 70, right? They just do the math and how much money it saves, and then you spend that money on games that you wouldn't have bought otherwise. And it's absolutely just a great deal.
Or you just reinvest that money in games you currently play. Like we play a lot of games as service games. I play a lot of Destiny, Division.
Mhm.
You buy stuff, DLC, season passes, things like that, where otherwise you might have spent that money
Yeah.
purchasing a game that you didn't even enjoy. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
Forza
So
was a good example of that because
yeah.
I was, I was lucky to get gifted the premium bundle or whatever for that. You know what I mean, add on. But as far as that goes, like that would have made it more palatable instead of spending $100 or $150 sometimes for these like enhanced editions of these
Yeah.
games. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I can take advantage of all these other things. And um it makes, I don't know, it just, for me, it makes games better. It takes the pressure off the devs too, in a lot of ways, time constraints and all these different things. So it's just a win-win for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Great point. Great point. So let's throw this over to you, Pong. Get your opinion on this poll, man. Pong, you're a grazer. I know you play a f ton of games. You play a
Mm,
crap ton of games. So
mhm.
and we just kind of got into that with Mav. So kind of get into the weeds of that. Like where you at? How many games you feel like 50 plus? I think I think that's an easy guess for you.
Yeah. No, I would say that you should have probably had 100+ option on there.
Mhm.
Yeah, for you
I,
for sure.
I believe it. With the way that I know for a fact that I've tried over 100 games through Game Pass. I know that for a fact. That's easy, especially these past few years when they've just been dropping an absolute shit ton of games nonstop, right? And it's just been, again, ever since I jumped back into the Xbox ecosystem around 2018 or so, it's just been a constant part of my routine of clearing my hard drive, downloading new set of games from Game Pass, trying them out. Like Mav said, I found games obviously that I never would have purchased. Again, there's too much content. There was, I was never lucky enough to be that rich dude who could just go to the store and say, "Give me every new game." Right? I was never like that, so I never had that opportunity at all. And so, even back in the day before we started having the golden age resurgence, or even last gen when we started seeing a ton of small indie games come and all that kind of stuff, I never had the opportunity to buy them all. So having Game Pass is a godsend. It's walking it's walking into a store and saying, "Hey, I want that game, that game, that game, that game, that game," and I've already paid my monthly fee, and I can walk out the store with it. And that's how it works for me. And yeah, as a grazer, as the ultimate grazer, that's why I love Xbox and the Game Pass ecosystem. It's again, people can say whatever they want to say. They game how they game. If they're only doing the AAA stuff, then yeah, sure, you can have issues with it. But that's not
Yeah.
me. I game everything. I'll try the smallest game to the biggest game. And the ease of access of having it right there in Game Pass and saying, "Hey, I'm just going to download this." The worst thing I have to do is figure out what game I want to erase, right? That I want to delete off my hard drive so I can make room for it. So yeah, I've easily played 100+. It is by far, again, that's why we call it the best value in gaming for me. And I'll say that personally. I say it overall because I think if you are the average person out there, I think you're going to want to try more than just the regular games. I know there's some people who only play Madden and Call of Duty or whatever the case may be. But I think for the majority of people having that access, naturally you're going to say, "Hey, that looks interesting. Let me try that." And that's the best part about Game Pass. And like I said, discovered games I never would have played, fall in
Yeah.
love with them. I purchased games that I never would have before. I've purchased DLC on games that were in Game Pass. All that whole ecosystem does
Yeah.
work. So, it's just simply the best for me. And so, yeah, easily 100 plus, easily.
Awesome. So before we continue, I want to make sure I get to this super chat. Shout out to Alvin for the $7.77 super chat. He said just got off work.
Alvin, sorry, I gotta do
He
it.
said just got off work, just in time to settle in with this great podcast, great panel, great topics, and great chat. Redfall Game of the Year 2023. Shout out to Alvin. Appreciate the super chat.
Whoa.
So-
There's a little game called Starfield, Alvin. You know better. You listen to our shows. All right, you're in our chats. Come on now. That's good. Redfall is going to be great.
Awesome.
I do believe that.
Appreciate the support, Alvin. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And once again, guys, that option is available if you do want to support the show in that way. But once again, you just being here is awesome enough. So thank you for hanging out with us and sharing your Saturday evening, man. But let's throw this over to you, Fuzz, before we move on to the next topic, brother. Where you at, man? How many games in chat? Let us know too. I'm curious, chat. Seriously, go ahead and let us know in chat right now how many games you think you've downloaded from Game Pass and or bought just because of Game Pass. So shout out to everybody, man. But go ahead, Fuzz.
All right, so I went with the more conservative number. I went with 30. Now, keep in mind, I don't count the games that I just start up to get the what do you call them, Microsoft reward points. There's a couple of games where it's like, okay, start this game and you get 5 points or whatever. Those I don't count on that list. Then there's the ones that I actually played and then wound up buying, like Psychonauts was one of those, or Psychonauts 2 was one of those. 12 Minutes was another one. Medium was another one. So there was a bunch of them where I was kind of on the fence on whether to buy them or even to bother trying them. Tried them, liked them, wound up buying them. Some of them being first party, I know they're not going to leave, but I'm not guaranteeing that I'm always going to be subscribed. So if I like the game enough, I'm going to buy it to keep it. So at least I know I own it outright, kind of thing. But most of the things that I use Game Pass for now are, like, me being a racing fan. There's quite a few games that sometimes knock it out of the park as far as the feel, and then there are ones that are kind of like they just send it in kind of thing. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to test out a lot of games, especially like with a lot of the EA and Codemaster stuff. Now, majority of it is good, but there have been like one or two of the Need for Speeds that I'm kind of glad I didn't buy day one. Although that's going to probably change with this Unbound. I'm going to wind up picking it up day one. But there have been ones in the past where it's like, I'll wait and see and then test it out. And it's also kind of adjusted my buying habits to some extent, because originally when this was coming out in 2017, all the games that I were buying were the ones that would wind up in Game Pass 2 to 3 months later.
Exactly.
So since then, I've kind of looked at what would normally be there within the 3 to 6 month range, and I hold off on buying those right off the bat, because a lot of times they would just sit in my backlog, and then I wouldn't wind up getting around to playing them until they're actually in Game Pass. So I've adjusted my buying habits in that regard, and I've moved it to the point where the ones that I know are definitely not going to be in Game Pass, or at least for a year, those are the ones I wind up usually buying day one, because now, instead of buying all the ones I was going to buy before and the ones I was kind of like, I'll have to wait for a sale, I can go ahead and get some of those now. And then the other ones I know wind up either being in Game Pass day one or within the first 3 months. So, but overall, I would say a strong 30. There was a point where I kept count, like I think for 2017, I think I kept count just to make sure it was worth my money type of thing. And I think I stopped counting somewhere around 20 or 22 games. So it's been a lot since that 2017, 2018 range, but I'll just say 30, because I know a lot of those 30 that I'm counting are ones I've played and then eventually wound up buying, like your Onrush, or like I'd have to look at the hard drive to see a majority of them, but there's been so many that have been like, you know what, I enjoyed this game more than I thought I would. I'm gonna wind up buying it, get it at a discount. Like right now, instead of buying Forza Horizon full out at launch, I just bought the premium upgrade, and then I'll buy the mainstay of the game when it's between $5 and $20 or something like that on sale type of deal. But yeah, Game Pass in general, it's as long as you use it as like I guess not necessarily an alternative to what you would normally play, but if you use it for what it's meant for, you're definitely going to find quite a few gems in there. And there's always going to be, well, not this particular year, but there's always going to be the first party that come in there day and date, and some of the third party that even show up day and date, bigger titles and some of the smaller titles. So I'm pretty pretty satisfied with what I've gotten out of it over these, I guess, what is it now, 5 years? So
Yeah,
yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, 5 years about.
Why did I not know that Fuzzy was going to break out the spreadsheets to answer this freaking question?
The Excel.
Fuzzy,
You got the
yes,
Excel
you are
spreadsheet?
way too organized and analytical. Fuzzy, we're going to turn you into a grazer. You just need to start downloading games. Bro. Don't worry
Try
about counting.
everything.
Well, I started doing that, and then I ran out of hard drive space. Now, bear in mind, I got 2 of those cards that I switch between.
That's when you know you're doing it right, Fuzzy. That's when you know you're doing it.
Exactly.
Okay, just don't worry about the space. You just delete. Just keep going. Just keep trying. Oh.
That's the
And
tough
in the
decision, right? Is
play.
what to delete. That's always
Yeah,
the hard.
that's what I said. That's the hardest decision I have all the time. Even a game I haven't touched in like 6 months. It's like, oh, but I might go back to it. Oh, I don't know if I want to delete that one.
Yep.
It's really
Horrible.
tough.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, terrible. We even got that inventory. That's an inventory management issue in video games as well. Fuzz, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
But
Division stash space.
oh yeah, Jesus Christ. But shout out to chat once again. Let us know, chat, what games, how many games you think you've downloaded from Game Pass and or bought because of Game Pass. I'd say mine are probably 30 to 50. I would say in that range if I had to just think off the top of my head. My wife actually downloads way more games than I do, and she plays a bunch of different games. So shout out to wifey. She
she's
plays a
doing it
bunch
right.
of. Yeah,
She's
she
doing
plays
it
a
right.
bunch of different stuff. She like literally gets into these games and really like she could probably write a review on the game she plays because she like gets into them and actually gives them a real shot to see if they're good or not, if she likes them. So I say about 30 to 50. So shout out to Game Pass once again, doing our wallets a freaking favor and helping us out, allowing us to play these different games, lowering that, just completely demolishing the paywall and allowing people to get in and play games otherwise they probably would not have the resources or access to. So shout out to Game Pass, man. We're moving on.
You know
Yeah.
what? Hold on, real quick, because you guys got brought up the division inventory. Hey, listen, all future game developers and publishers out there, I know people aren't going to like this suggestion, but you know what? When it comes to inventory, if you got a looter or you got a big RPG, take from the MMOs and offer a premium package that includes, a monthly fee, of course, but includes a unlimited inventory space. Please start doing that. They do it well. Again, ESO being one of them. If you buy their premium package, you get unlimited inventory space. That's like a hidden golden nugget for y'all. If you're gonna do one of those games of service that it requires people collecting a lot of things, which we all become collectors in those games, just give us that option. That's all.
Pong's sitting there asking the developers to charge us more money.
Yes,
I just
I
want
am
that
charged.
to be on
Oh,
record.
yeah,
me
please.
more.
We got
Charge
that on
me more.
record,
And I'm
man.
like, I hope
Good
Ubisoft
Lord.
isn't listening because I could see it now. It's like
Hey, it's better than not having that option at all. That's all I got
True.
to say.
Yeah.
true.
I feel you. I understand. I get the idea. I get where you were going with that, Pong. So no, but yeah, no. So I guess the next topic we're gonna talk about here before we get into Pong and Fuzz's topic, I want to talk about Modern Warfare 2. Now we've kind of gone over this. You guys talked about Mav. All three of you guys talked about you guys were all playing COD Modern Warfare 2, and we want to talk about the record-breaking release and what this means for COD going forward. So we've talked about COD obviously a lot recently. It feels like it's back, right? For all intents and purposes, COD is back, right? And and shout out to Pong. We got receipts. We want to make sure we give proper credit here. Now I understand, Pong, you're not gonna take credit for this. You said it was a low hanging fruit, whatever.
It was.
We still gonna give you credit. All right. So Pong said this would be the biggest Call of Duty ever. And by all intents and purposes, it seems like it is as far as from what I'm seeing, from what I'm reading. So we're gonna start with our guest on this, Mav. I know you said you've been playing it though, bro, but as I don't know how much COD you played previously. I was really heavy into COD up until probably Advanced Warfare or maybe Ghost was the last one that I really got into, and people don't even like Ghost. Ghost is like a redheaded stepchild of Call of Duty. People don't even talk about it. They act like it doesn't exist. But where you at on this, man? You know, what does this do? Obviously, we got the ABK deal looming going forward. It's nice to see that things are going in the right direction before this merger, this acquisition fully goes through. So where you at on this?
Yeah, I mean, I played a lot of Call of Duty. In fact, Vanguard is the only one I have never bought. So I was kind of down on COD the last two releases. Cold War, I had a lot of issues with it. It just crashed a lot in the single player campaign, and I had trouble getting through that game. And the multiplayer is not. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't really my style. Um, Vanguard, I played the beta and I was like, oh my god, this is like the worst thing ever. So I didn't get into that. So that's why I never got Vanguard. But I've been hyped for this COD ever since 2019 came out. Infinity Ward kind of put themselves back on the map in a big way with Call of Duty 2019, and this was for me. I'm right there with Pong, and I'll also claim half credit Pong because I also said that
Yes.
this was going to be the biggest Call of Duty
Yes.
ever.
We had a discussion on PM
and
and PM.
yes, it was.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
we want to make sure we give proper credit.
No, I mean it was easy to see. You know what I mean? But we had that discussion for sure, and I mean, it's definitely hitting those numbers right now. You know what I mean? So with the 2-year release as well, this is has to last for 2 years with extra content coming out, and it's gonna have a lot more support than I think most Call of Duty multiplayer games with the ongoing updates and stuff like that because of the 2-year cycle they're facing. I think that we're in for a fun ride, man. They have some issues right now with Pong said hopefully they got it cleaned up, but with crashing to dashboard and multiplayer right now on Xbox at least. So if you're with a party of like 5 or 6, it can get frustrating trying to get the games in because you're in a party and then 2 people crash after that game, one person crashes the next game, and then one person crashes after the next. So it's a lot of like getting back into the matches and lobbies, which doesn't take a long time. It just can be a little bit frustrating. But as far as the game goes, man, it's like back in a big way. It just feels like true COD, but to the next level in a way. It feels more fluid, and the gunplay is on point. There's some little bugs here and there that they got to work out that I think they've already been addressing some of these things. But overall, I'm super happy with it. I think that the campaign was top notch, also, which is I think I'm really glad that they released that a week early because it gave more attention to it. Even though it wasn't like as something that everybody was universally loving, but it seemed like most people loved the campaign.
Yeah, I got that
And
feeling as well.
yeah, I think that because of the extra attention to it, it shed a light on the campaign, which usually gets overlooked because everybody just starts talking about multiplayer right away. You know what I mean?
For a while there, if we're being honest, man, some people were like, we don't even need campaign in some of these games, right?
Yeah.
There was kind of that.
I've always been on that train on Battlefield because like it's been like kind of that franchise before, but like Call of Duty, I've always felt like it's been a campaign and multiplayer game.
Yeah.
And I feel like when they did that 1 year when they didn't have the campaign in COD, it was just because they didn't get to finish it, and they kind of just made up that was a Black Ops year, I think, right? And they just kind of made that game was like a greatest hits of maps. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really even like really feel like its own game at all. So that was kind of like a weird year for Call of Duty. But besides that, I think that they're on the right track right now. So I'm excited to see what they do with their dev cycles now because of this 2 years for the next one. I think that means that potentially Infinity Ward could get a 4-year development cycle for the next Call of Duty, which is absolutely sick if that's the case. But yeah, man, it's all good things right now. Fix the crashing issues, fix a little bit of the bugs. Overall, game's absolutely amazing.
Awesome. And once again, like I said, at the end of the day, we got to be honest. Pre-merger, the biggest franchise, well, one of the biggest franchises that's part of the merger, seemingly hitting a home run right before this happens. That looks great for Xbox as well, for being honest. Like,
I wonder, do you think they're going to be able to use this though? Like, I feel like this is the hype and attention to Call of Duty right now is going to be potentially used with the CMA from both sides. Whereas Xbox can say, see, it's so popular everywhere. Why the heck would we take it off of those platforms? And while PlayStation would be arguing to the CMA, look how popular it is. You can't let it go. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like there's gonna be interesting things going on with that.
Oh yeah, and we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, as the information comes out about that. But at the end of the day, it's great to hear that a majority of people now. This is my timeline, chat. I don't know what your timeline look like. This my timeline. Majority of my timeline, at least on Twitter, is pretty positive about this Call of Duty. That hasn't happened in a long time. So if I'm being 100% honest, generally there's not good things. At least the past 2 years, not
Yeah,
very
it's
good
been
things have
3
been
years
said.
since you've seen
3 years,
that.
I would say, yeah. And things haven't looked very good for Call of Duty. So shout out to Infinity Ward, riding the ship, putting out a great, high quality, polished product that seemingly is getting everything back on track. Now, I do want to make a point before we move on to you and get to you, Fuzz.
Mm-hmm.
Do not listen. Be careful. Do not fall into the booby trap. All right, because there's a lot of pseudo pro players running around acting like Call of Duty is broken. It's just part of the Call of Duty community. Just ignore it, right? So I just want to make sure we're clear on that because you got a lot of people talking about skill-based matchmaking and all this other stuff. Like, look, we all play for different reasons. The majority of the people play COD, and you might want to. I don't know if you agree with me on this, Mav. I would say if you took a survey of Call of Duty fans, right, Mav, and said and asked them, well, what is skill-based matchmaking? How many of them do you think will be able to tell you?
Well, not very many, but I would also argue that a lot of them actually prefer skill-based matchmaking also, right? Because it's more about the elite players that don't really like it.
Exactly.
Because they get pulled up
That's the
against
point.
each other and they don't want to they don't get to kill all the crappy players right out there. So I personally don't mind it. It affects some things sometimes, like with us, because like Jasper and Steel are on another level than like me and Pong, right? So it's interesting when they get in our lobbies, the matches are a little easier for them, but it's a little harder for us, which means that it's actually trying to meet somewhere in the middle based on our team, right? So we're still able to get wins and do well, but guess what's happening with them? They're the best players, so they're getting the most kills, as well as we're still able to compete. You know what I mean? So I personally don't really find a lot of flaws with skill-based matchmaking if it's done right. It's been in Call of Duty for a long time too. I believe so. I don't really understand what the uproar all of a sudden is about skill-based matchmaking. Why does it all of a sudden ruin gaming when it's been a thing in most first-person shooters multiplayer for a long time, right? So,
and to be fair, it's not a perfect formula, right? Like there's not a perfect solution, but it's it's like you said, we should be past this at this point. So
yeah, maybe they could have one lobby system where they turn it off just for those players. You know what I mean? But is ranked skill-based matchmaking or is ranked not? I would think ranked may not be. You know what I mean? So if people could just play ranked lobbies, I guess.
No, I feel you. So let's throw this over to you, Fuzz. Get your quick opinion on this, bro. You played a little bit of it. But where you at? It feels like it's back. Mav just talked about that. Pong talked about that earlier as well. Call of Duty feels like it's in a good space. What does this mean going forward? Obviously the ABK deal is looming. People are tired of talking about it. It is what it is. I get it, right? But that is part of this, right? That's part of the equation. So what does this mean going forward for Xbox? Just kind of, cover all of that.
Well, I guess the big thing is hopefully this is the end of the roller coaster where we have like a year that everybody's pumped for it, and then a year that's like what the fuck is this thing with Vanguard. So I think now they kind of have an idea of what their fans want, and if they're going to have more time to deliver that, I think it's going to only go up from here as far as moving forward. But as far as for this one, Pong called it. Mav called it. I mean, I think pretty much this was destined to be, the biggest Call of Duty as of today type of thing, and it's more than likely going to hold that spot until 4 years down the road when there might be a redoing of Modern Warfare 3 or something. So we'll see how that goes. But it's a shame to some extent because we're now talking about Call of Duty again instead of like how Battlefield, had the perfect opportunity. Halo kind of took that perfect opportunity, although it's, a little light right now, but that's going to change in about a week or so with the Forge stuff. But Call of Duty being back, it's great for the masses. And, I know this is all going to, bleed over into the CMA negotiations and things along those lines. But yeah, it's awesome that it's back. And, all the people that was saying that it was playing like crap during the beta and they wanted to get their refund, but yet they're still posting clips of them playing. It's kind of funny, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm just glad that this go around it's something that I'm actually interested in, as opposed to like with World War II stuff. I've had enough World War II stuff for probably the next 10 years.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But yeah, Modern Warfare this go around, it is kind of a Michael Bay type of play style, or not play style, but as far as the campaign is concerned with the set pieces and things. But that's to be expected, and that's pretty much kind of like what we wanted. I disagree with the whole IGN outlook on it, but it is what it is on their end. But yeah, I'm just glad that it's modern. It feels great, plays great, looks great, and it has a very, I wouldn't say gripping campaign, but one that definitely keeps you engaged enough to complete it, which I plan on doing this weekend.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So it almost feels like we're in a fucking paradox, right? Like this is crazy. Like, who knew Call of Duty in 2022 would be in this like good space? I would not have guessed that. So now I know we're saying this was pretty much a layup for Infinity War, right? I know, Mav, you said that earlier. This is like a layup. Like just the tide was feeling like it was going this way, but for them to actually over deliver, right? In some areas, I would argue they've over delivered in some areas. Now, there'll be a lot of people, if we go through each individual aspect of Call of Duty, there's probably some things, but obviously I think from just a general statement, they've over delivered on even what I expected.
But
so,
when you have to nitpick for the complaints, it's in a good spot.
That's in a good
right?
spot. Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's like, I feel like some games, they get nitpicked to death for like little things, right? Because they're held to a different standard. It's not, but then you have games launched like Battlefield launched where it actually had legitimate issues, or like things like Halo Infinite's content is not up to par right now because they don't have enough regular releases with that. Like, glaring things are like obvious, right? But when you have to like nitpick, oh, I don't like the way that this matchmaking system really is working, or I don't like the way that this one specific gun's like feel is, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I saw today, Mav, somebody was doing a comparison of the iron sights.
The iron sight recoils.
Yeah, you see that?
Saying,
they were
nitpicking
it.
They ruined it.
It's like close. Like, I can see what they're going for, but it's like, dude, really? You're pulling that out here? Yeah.
When the issues with the game become so minute as little details like that, that means the game overall is probably in a pretty damn good space, because people are playing it so much, even that they notice these little things, that they care enough about these little things, as opposed to the big issues that other developers are facing right now. You know what I mean? So that would say the biggest thing people should be complaining about is like on PlayStation, I guess they had some audio issues on PS4 copies, and on Xbox, we're still having some crashing issues, at least as of last night when we were playing. So those are the main things people should be really pointing to, and then they'll keep tweaking, and these games like this are always a balancing act. You know what I mean? Of like of balancing, just like fighters and stuff. Like, oh, we're gonna nerf this gun, we're gonna boost this gun. Oh, this gun's OP now.
Goes,
I mean,
right?
it's always like that. It's always like that.
Yeah,
that's not what ruins or makes these games like good or great. It's the overall feel of them, the engagement, the quality, the matchmaking, how solid the process is of getting out of the games, the maps. There's so many other things to this, as opposed to just, my iron sights have a little bit more recoil.
Absolutely. And once again, chat, let us know what your experience with this Modern Warfare 2 game has been thus far. That's why we do this, man. We appreciate you all in chat. Shout out to Chris Jones, Splendiferous, Jedi Knight, Peter. I saw you, Ashtray, hanging out. I saw Blue. Everybody watching live, future people watching later on. Shout out to you guys as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us live here today at the Shop Podcast. We're going to throw this over to Mr. Pong So before we move on and get his next topic, he's actually going to wrap us up and take us into the next topic. But Pong, where are you at, man? I know you've been playing Call of Duty. You didn't get as much time with it, but where are you at on it? Just where are you at on the overall appeal, the direction of Call of Duty? We've talked about this the last couple of weeks, especially as it's gotten closer to the release.
Pong, I'm mute.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Professional podcaster. Listen, I think this is everything that we thought it would be and more. In a lot of ways, the amount of content that they already have in the multiplayer specifically is ridiculous. There's something. Steele and I talked about this morning. If you're on the fence about Call of Duty, there's something for everybody in this game. Especially with modes, you don't have to play the classic multiplayer if that's not your forte, if that's not your thing. There's Ground War, which Mav absolutely loved during the beta. I had a great time with it. It's not Battlefield. Nothing compares to Battlefield in a lot of ways. That's what makes Battlefield unique, but you can tell that they've been working on it and they've gotten this large scale battle with more vehicles to feel better than it ever did in a Call of Duty when they first started putting it in. So that's there. You got the Spec Ops, which is co-op. There's just so much here, and we're not even talking about Warzone 2.0, which is coming out next month. So, I mean, again, there is just, I think they went up and beyond. You can tell that the entirety of Activision worked on this game. This was not just Infinity Ward, right? They had every single studio.
It was all hands on deck.
Listen, I watched the entire credits roll after the campaign. It is insane how many people there are. Like, I was like, it's still going. It's still going. Like, I've seen some big games, but I was like, wow, they were breaking it down by studio, by division. It was crazy. So I think that Infinity Ward really has set the bar high again. This is the kind of Call of Duty is still the number one selling game every year. Like, they can rest on their laurels. They could, continue to put out Call of Duty and sell it because, again, Battlefield didn't take advantage of Vanguard. Halo is missing content right now. So they kind of have the first person shooter outside of the Battle Royale space to themselves at this moment. So they could have sat there and just put out another good Call of Duty. But I think Infinity Ward really took to heart everything that's been being said about the, even though they weren't working necessarily directly on those games, the latest iterations of Call of Duty, and said, you know what, we got to get back to business. We know what we can do with this game. Let's challenge ourselves and the rest of the teams to actually make something where people get up, sit up, and notice Call of Duty again in a different way. And that's what I've seen on my timeline. That's what I've seen in the chats this morning on Living Split Screen. We had multiple people talking with me and Steele this morning in chat, talking about how they hadn't played a Call of Duty in 10 years and are playing Call of Duty this year. That kind of excitement has not existed in a long time. That kind of reach, getting other people to come back to Call of Duty after extended periods of time off, really says something about what this game is doing. And again, actually playing the game, the beta, as I said from the beginning, yes, there was minor issues in the beta. There was some things that we talked about while we were playing it. But overall, that was the most polished beta that I've seen since we had Halo Infinite, when we were all raving about Halo Infinite's multiplayer beta, going, oh my God, this game's ready to rock and roll. Like, they could launch this today. That's how close it was, and it's carried over to the actual release. Every single map is unique, creative. I have not found a map that I'm going, oh God, this map, I hate this map. No, I've not found that map yet that is disappointing me. The weapons are on point. The sound is off. It's so crazy. Like, turning up my headphones and actually be able to hear footsteps and all that kind of stuff. And I know that's something that people had a problem with, but they've always been good at it. But I actually think they've gone up and beyond in this one as well. It's the little attentions to detail in this game. The new weapon system, the new gunsmith that they have is absolutely incredible. It's fun. Unlocking accessories, attachments, I should say, to other weapons, so that you don't have to reopen them if you move to a different weapon. Some of those attachments are universal and they're open for you. So you're not feeling like you're having to re-grind out again just to get one optic scope, or anything like that. So All of that. They've thought about a lot of that. I saw Jedi Knight Peter in the chat. He came up with, well, they got to redo the UI. I agree. The UI sucks. That's one complaint we did have from the beta. The UI is not intuitive at all. But again, like Mav said, if you're complaining about the UI, listen, they've done a freaking fantastic job, okay? That's it, period. It is fun to play. Again, you're never going to make this entire community happy. It's like any other big game. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't feel like it plays right. For me, this goes back to the classic Call of Duties. This is when Call of Duty was at its peak. It wasn't the super fast gunplay. I think the super fast gunplay, while a certain subsect of the fans really love that style, for the masses, which Call of Duty is made for, it does turn some people off. It turns more people off in the masses. I think having this slow down, you could still run and gun if you want to. You are going to be penalized a little bit with the footsteps and that kind of things, but that's part of skill, right? So, but for the masses, having it, and I say slower pace, by no means is it slow. This is still a fast shooter, but having it slowed down a tad bit, having still some really unique maps where you can find your spot and you can camp for a bit. Like, I'm not big into camping, but you can camp for a bit, or you can find those areas that people are going to be coming into, that are funneling into, and you got a good chance of getting a kill. That's all classic Call of Duty, not just always running around screaming your head off, just, hoping that you're the quickest trigger, right? That's not what Call of Duty was for me, and that's not what it was in its prime. And now we're back. And I think that that's the best part about this right now. And like Mav said, we got 2 years with this game. They've already talked about expanding the campaign, which is freaking awesome. If you watch through the credits, there was an extra scene in there. Not everybody did that. There was an extra scene in there that they introduced what they're going for next, which is obviously, it's out there now. I'm not spoiling anything, but they talked about that they're going to go back to no Russian as one of the missions, etc. It looks like they're going to do it a little bit different than what we remember no Russian as, but they introduced that. So we're going to have expanded campaign. We're going to have expanded multiplayer. They're going to continue to add maps. And then you've got Warzone 2.0 coming in next month. Absolutely insane amount of content that we're going to get out of this game. That's why I said from the beginning, this will be the biggest one ever. And I think that this 2-year stretch here is going to prove out. We got a long ways to go. Those are some big records that some of those Call of Duties had, some big numbers. But I think this one, the way that it's gaining traction, the way that it's already come out and is already kind of catching fire within this community, means that it's going to catch fire on the masses as well come through the holiday. I think we're going to see that noob Christmas that everybody loves that we used to get all the time with Call of Duty. You remember that? You got to be playing at Christmas vacation
Halo,
time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we're going to see that again. As far as the CMA stuff, I know Mav and I were talking about it a little bit too. We were joking about that. Man, this couldn't, this kind of goes to Sony's side about how big Call of Duty is, having this massive return to popularity. Again, not that it ever dropped that far, but having a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 come out when Sony's been talking about how big it is and Xbox has been trying to downplay it, it kind of plays into Sony's numbers and to what they've been saying about how important Call of Duty is. But at the same time, I've been thinking about it too. It actually kind of plays in to Xbox's side, because Phil, again, in an interview this week with, or not an interview, but he gave a tech talk with the Wall Street Journal. He talked about, once again, made the statement, we consider Call of Duty like Minecraft. It is its own platform. It is too big to make exclusive. We want to grow it even further. We want to get it on Nintendo, and that's how we're going to treat this game. That actually plays into that. If this Modern Warfare 2 hits like this, and all of a sudden, even during the ABK deal, it starts really hitting some record numbers, or it's one of the fastest selling Call of Duties of all time, that's going to play into what Phil's saying, that this is different. This is a unique game that they're not going to take away from or devalue by making it exclusive just because it might help them. Obviously it would, might help them in their Game Pass numbers. There's plenty of other content they can do that with. They think of Call of Duty as its own individual thing that they want to grow and even make it bigger, because they're talking about the mobile market, which we know Call of Duty Mobile is big. Warzone is coming to mobile. That's going to be huge. All of this stuff plays into that. And so I think that this actually will help them in some of what they're talking about as well with the regulatory bodies.
Awesome. Awesome. Great topic, man. Once again, hit the nail on the head, man. Call of Duty is in a phenomenal spot. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. And like I said, it feels like a paradox because there was a point, Mav. I feel like everybody here, chat, probably you as well, where I wasn't sure where Call of Duty was going. I wasn't sure about its future. I wasn't sure if it was going to be around, what was going on. I think we've all gotten to that point with Call of Duty, but to see the resurrection of Call of Duty and to see it where it's at now and it's seemingly in a good space and all this, we got a roadmap going forward. Obviously, if the deal gets done, that's a big thing. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it. Shout out, what's up, Web Dave? See Outbreak Podcast in the house. Shout out to you as well, man. Appreciate you hanging out with us. But let's go ahead and now it's time for my right hand man here to take over the show. We're gonna throw it over to you, Pong, and lead us into the next topic, brother.
Yeah, let's do this. So, there's a couple topics this week. Here's the one I'm going to jump into because we had an interesting discussion last night on Xbox Ultimate. We had Hargeet Channy on, great member of this community, member of Game On Daily with the Sauce E1, Gaz, and of course
and
the level-headed one, Asa over there.
Shout out to Game On Daily.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Game On Daily, of course. But Hargeet was on last night on Xbox Ultimate, and we talked about Square Enix and their latest statement, and it actually wound up into a much bigger conversation than I had initially thought it would be. And for anybody who doesn't know, I had the captain's chair last night, so we didn't go left a lot. Mav likes to run a wild show, but I had control, so we stayed on topic. But this became a big topic last night on Xbox Ultimate because Hargeet came at it from a different point of view. So I'm gonna read off the statement. I want you guys, and we're obviously gonna start with our guest Mav, of course, brother, who got to talk about this a little bit last night, but we'll just continue that conversation, Mav. So I want to get initial thoughts on the position that Square Enix is in, but then I also want you to think about this question. We've talked about this, but I want it specific to Xbox. Does it make sense in your mind for Xbox to acquire Square Enix at this point? Okay, out of all the acquisitions we talked about, we know Phil's looking in the East. We've talked about the Segas, we've talked about the Bandai Namcos, we've talked about Square in the past, but obviously most people think it's going to be Sony or maybe Nintendo or something like that. Xbox doesn't ever come up in the conversation, but we had a full conversation last night, and Hargeet made some interesting points that I have thought of, but he was really going at it like, hey, no, Xbox, this needs to make sense. So let me read the statement. I'll get you guys' initial thoughts, and then I'll have you answer that question as well. So Square, for anybody who doesn't know, this week came out with a brand new statement. This statement's going to sound, in some ways, if you think of it the way that I do, like they wrote it in 1999, or they don't realize, they just woke up in 2022 and realized the world had passed them by. Okay, they've been in some stasis chamber this whole entire time. So bear with me here. I'm going to read the statement. It's not very long. So Square put this out. It says, achieving major growth in the game industry is difficult now for companies that compete primarily in the Japanese market, given its graying demographics. As such, it is critical for our business that we produce hit titles that speak to the global market, which offers greater scale in terms of both customers and sales volumes. Furthermore, game development efforts are becoming more sizable and sophisticated as the result of technological achievements in the devices on which they are played, such as consoles or smart devices. Like I said, it sounds like 1999. Oh my God. The investment required to develop game titles is therefore an order of magnitude greater than in the past. In other words, the Japanese market is no longer sufficient for achieving a level of earnings that enables us to recoup our development investments and generate a profit, and therefore need to approach our development efforts based on the assumption that we have to succeed in the global market. Sincerely yours, Square Enix. Okay, so this was their statement. Not a whole lot to break down here, but again, from my standpoint, it sounds like, again, they just woke up and looked around and said, oh my God, what's going on in this? What are we doing around here? After we have been discussing on this podcast and other podcasts about asking Square, what are you guys doing? Like, where are you? What are these decisions you're making? So, Mav, I'll start with you, brother. First, just some basic thoughts, obviously, on the statement and the fact that in 2022, after they just sold off Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, Western divisions, by the way, they are now talking about how they've got to enter the global market. Like they never thought of this before. Basic thoughts on that, and then go ahead and tell me why or why not Xbox should acquire or makes sense to acquire Square Enix at this point.
So you're right. It was an interesting conversation we had with Hargeet, but I'll get to the first thing first, which is the comments from Square. There's two ways of looking at it, right? There's a way of looking at it like, oops, we've been doing things the wrong way for a long time, and now we got to change course, and we made a mistake, right? And that's the most obvious way of looking at it, because there's like saying like, well, we're not doing well, and this is the reason why. Right? We need to start focusing on this. The thing is, it contradicts all the moves they've been making in the past. Again, So you beg to wonder, like, why have they been running their business in one way for so long? And now you're realizing all of a sudden, and what makes good business sense is to release games to more people and to have more wide appeal. Like, that's just the same with any consumer-based product, right? Like, if you make stuff for the more niche your audience, then the less chance people are going to find it or care about it. That's just the way it is. And then when you limit the customer base in half in major territories, that's also going to limit the potential reach you have for your growing your products and growing engagement in those and popularity over time. It's just like bad business sense. And it seems like they just all of a sudden are like, hey, let's take a look at this for a second. Why have we been making these decisions? Why have we been doing everything? They've been playing it safe in a lot of ways, but playing it safe has caused them a lot of issues, right? Playing it safe has caused them to not be able to expand as much as they need to compete on another level. Like other publishers have been able to turn things around, like Bandai Namco and Capcom, right? Right in their door, right around them. You got all these publishers making big strides, and what's happening with Square? Why? Well, they're the only ones really attacking that model right now that they've been stuck in for a long time, right? They've been trapped in a time capsule.
Yep.
Other publishers have been moving on to bigger and better things. So as far as the statement goes, it comes across as like, duh, why are you saying this now? And you should have been saying this about like 6-7 years ago. I'll say Hargeet made some good points on that too, but based on the fact that Xbox was at the time, right? With limiting that. And I don't necessarily take this as necessarily 100% just the types of games that they're making. I think they're talking about being able to find a way to bring those games to more people. And I also think they're talking about trying to make those games more appealing to more people, right? So I wouldn't anticipate all of a sudden just like Square Enix stops making JRPGs, right? That would be like crazy. All of a sudden, what do they just like lose all the Western talent they had, and now all of a sudden abandon with JRPGs? No, it's not going to happen, right? But what they're going to do is find a way to do what like Bandai Namco did with a niche genre and the Souls genre, and bring it become mass appeal, right? Guess what? Elden Ring did. It came out on all platforms, right? Came out on all platforms. Was a highly anticipated game for years. For me, it seems like Final Fantasy 16 doesn't have the hype that it should. You know what I mean? It's like, I wonder why. I don't know. The Final Fantasy is like the biggest name in the West, at least for JRPGs, So and Square Enix also has the most popular name in JRPGs in the East, and that's Dragon Quest. So I just feel like they've been missing the mark on a lot of the decisions. And let's put this over here. Let's put this game over there. Let's put this game over there, instead of like, hey, put your games everywhere so more people can enjoy them, right? I think that's kind of what their message is with this. Now, the second aspect of this, and when you ask, does it make sense for Xbox to purchase them, or yes or no? Yeah. I would have said no.
Right.
But I have an open mind. And Hargeet made so many good points last night. It's really difficult for me not to start looking at that in a different perspective. You know what I mean? It's what sane people have an open mind to be able to change the ways that they think. And before I was kind of with you, like Square makes bad decisions, and they don't like, they're kind of stubborn, and the way they they do their policies and the way they look at business is just so different than Microsoft, right?
Right.
But also, I started when Hargeet was saying all these things, I started looking at the fact that, you know what, all those things also, with all of the issues that Square's had, has also checked the box that they are risk adverse, right? That
Right.
they are
Correct.
looking for handouts, they are looking for cash left and right to help fund their projects. And maybe he was onto something with that. That would take a lot of pressure off of them, and they just start to be able to focus on making the games they know they want to make.
Right.
So in that sense, I think it does make sense. It would obviously make sense for Xbox. Now the question is, would Square want to do that? And the reason I think it would make sense for Xbox is obviously the IP and the
Yeah.
prestige with
Yeah.
with those titles and in the East, and all of a sudden having a name in the East that stands up with other publishers like Square, Sega, and like Bandai Namco and
Capcom.
Tecmo and Capcom and all these other names. You all of a sudden you have Square,
Yeah,
and you'll be able to
instantly.
put Dragon Quest day one on Game Pass. You're able to put Final Fantasy
Final
games day one
Fantasy.
on Game Pass. Be able to put Final Fantasy 14 cross play across Xbox and PC and all of those things. And there's so many avenues that it makes a lot of sense. Therefore, it's and something I didn't know as well that was brought to the attention last night was the mobile side in Japan. Square is pretty huge there
They're
in
the
that
biggest in the
arena.
East. They're
That's
the biggest
crazy. I would have
mobile
never have
publisher.
guessed
Yeah.
that at all. So that makes a lot of sense there too. You know what I mean? So in that aspect, I would say, yeah, it does make sense. It's not necessarily who'd be my first choice,
Right.
right?
That's not the
But
question. Yeah. Yep.
but I think it would fix a lot of the issues with Square, and I also think it would make sense for Xbox.
Right.
So is it something I would like to see? Yeah, but I wouldn't want to see it at the detriment of doing it in one of the other deals that I would like to see more. However, you know what I mean? This may be one of the more easy to achieve deals as well in the East.
Right.
So yeah, who knows, man? It's really interesting. Square's been talking to this company, that company, all these different companies over the last several years. So at some point, they're bound to do something.
Yeah, and they have to. They're
Yeah.
in trouble again. If they didn't have Final Fantasy 14, this would have happened a long time ago. That they would have been sold a long time ago. They got a lifeline because of Final Fantasy 14's success. They were hoping to get more lifelines from Crystal Dynamics and from Eidos Montreal. That did not work out for obvious reasons. They did not know how to work with the Western developers at all, and their marketing sucked. But they were hoping for more lifelines, and they didn't get those. And they wound up selling them off for a pittance. They wound up selling them off on the cheap instead of actually, taking the value that most people hold for Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal and making a better deal than what Embracer Group. I'm happy that Embracer Group got them, but again, Mav, you make great points, and again, we just talked about this last night, so it's fresh in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
But you do, and it's great to hear, again, that Hargeet brought a different perspective and that you were open to it, and he had some of the same influence on me in certain ways, although I had said originally that I would like to see Square Enix be purchased by Xbox just to watch the world burn on Twitter, right? I mean, that was my, but I love Square, and I think it would be great. I just don't think managerial wise that they match up with Xbox. Fuzzy, I'm going to save you for last because you were part of that conversation last night too. I want to get a fresh voice in here and a fresh thought from PTK, who may not have thought of this before. But when you hear this statement, another way to look at this, PTK, and we talked about this last night too, is that this statement not only shows it shows how unaware Square Enix has been of their position, seemingly how unaware they have been, that they have not been watching what's been going on around them very closely to all of a sudden come out with a statement like this. But you can also see this statement as a for sale sign, flat out. Like, this is a call for help. This is a cry. Like, we are in trouble. We don't know what we're doing. We're trying to figure it out, but we're probably going to need some help here. But PTK, when you heard the statement, what first popped in your mind as to why Square would put out something like this? And then again, as with Mav, the secondary question is, does Xbox make sense as, targeting Square Enix for acquisition after the ABK deal?
So to answer your first question, just regarding Square Enix, some of the things that they've done and just the current position that they're in, it is very interesting to see because it reminds me of the position that Capcom was in a few years ago.
Yes,
So
very
if you
much
guys
so.
don't,
2018.
exactly, if you guys don't remember, before RE the remake came out and saved Capcom's ass, they were in a really bad spot. The matter of fact, there was a rumor at the time that Xbox, there was something there was a piece of paper.
There's a deal. There was a deal in place.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there might have actually been some evidence that there was a deal. I think Pong, that's kind of where you're leading to. But so this reminds me of that position. So Square Enix, once again, we understand where Square Enix is at currently. We understand that they do not know how to work with their Western
developers. Didn't they understand, PTK? Why didn't they understand?
I can't say, man. It's really, really hard to say. Talk about not being able to read the room. Once again, you have these phenomenal IPs. They've done an okay job, but you've done some very, very blatant things. The whole Final Fantasy VII fiasco. Mismanaging. Basically, like you said, that Final Fantasy came out, and that's the lifeline of that company at this current point in time. They've gotten to the point to where now they're looking at like, hey, we need another check. We need somebody to come in here and bankroll some of these games to get some of this pressure off us because we painted ourselves in a corner with the way we've handled these IPs. You had two great developers and you pretty much, let them that. I wouldn't say they let them run autonomously. You tied their hands and then said, go make a great game.
Yeah, and then in Crystal Dynamics case, go make a game that you've never made before. Go make a type of game that you've never made before. And make it good.
Had the nerve to walk in the building and say, what is this? What is this mess?
Right.
What kind of game is this? What the
sales
hell?
are disappointing.
Exactly. Sales are disappointed. We're a little, we may be overshot a little. And don't they have one of them every other month? They're not happy with the sales, Guardians
whenever
of the
it was
Galaxy,
the Western division.
All these exactly great, phenomenal game, but they weren't happy with the sales. So it's they're almost reaping what they're sowing, unfortunately. And to answer the second part of this question, I'm with Mav. You know what I mean? So if we look at just structurally, it makes sense. Xbox instantly gets a known developer. They instantly get a bunch of known IP. They instantly get a presence. Same way if they bought Sega or Capcom, but they get a bunch of great IPs and they instantly get a presence over in a completely different territory in Japan, over in the East. So that's always a good thing. Obviously that fits something that Xbox needs. That is a weak point in their portfolio at this point. So that would instantly solve all the issues. Now, like you said, managerial wise, I'm not necessarily with you on the fact that I want to see the world burn. I know you have your little Joker moment, but but ultimately it would be interesting to see. I mean, another thing too, you brought this up. Would Square even be open? Would they even take a meeting with Xbox? Right? Like, I mean, obviously Xbox is a big check. Maybe you show up at the door with a blank check. That might change the conversation. But I don't even know if they would take a meeting. Like I'm 100% at this point in time, the way they've hot potatoed Xbox about their IPs and certain games not being available, and then okay, you can have these 2 or 3, but you can't have this one. You can have Final Fantasy.
To be fair though, PTK, Phil and Sarah both have said they've got a great relationship with Square.
I mean, listen, I get it. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna go, too deep on that one. I know Phil's a nice guy. Phil's a nice guy. Phil's a nice guy. I don't, that's, it is what it is. I'm not gonna go too far with that one, but it once again, if it did happen, it would be kind of funny. It would be very ironic, but yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind to see it happen. Because like I said, it would fit their portfolio. It instantly cleans up some of those gaps that Xbox has and gives them a presence. So I'm okay with that, but I do prefer some other options. I'm on the Bandai Namco. You got Konami, obviously. I think there are some better options out there. Sega, obviously, that fit better. They already got a great relationship, and it's obvious with something like Sega. Square Enix, hot potatoes, Xbox, depending on how they feel at the time. Sometimes they'll mess with Xbox, and sometimes they act like Xbox doesn't exist at all. So, Xbox has a better relationship with Sega, Bandai, and I think that would be more of a natural fit, in my opinion.
Right. And I don't disagree with that. The thing to consider too is this: if it were to go down, whoever gets them, and somebody's got to. I can't believe we're sitting in 2022 and Square Enix, one of the pillars of JRPGs, the company that really started the JRPG craze. If you go all the way back when they were working with Nintendo, like they are the staple. Like they are the ones that brought JRPGs to the West, that got them popular in the first place in a lot of ways. Sure, there was some other ones in there, your Fantasy Stars and those kind of things, but Square really was the one that put JRPGs on the map. And the fact that we're sitting here talking in 2022 that Square's in this position is absolutely insane to me. So they need to be acquired or merge with another one of those Eastern companies, something to help them. But whoever gets them is going to get value. Even though this is a seller's market right now, even though you're going to pay for Square Enix, you're going to get value, because if you can take those world-renowned IP and transform them into what they should have been at this point, Square is going to be on another level if they have the resources backing them. So if it's a Sony, if it's a Nintendo, or if it's an Xbox, you are going to get a great deal by buying Square Enix right now. They are probably the best deal going over in the East. Everybody else, you're going to be paying out for a lot, because everybody else is in a good spot right now, outside of Konami, but they're still extremely profitable company. They just haven't used their gaming IP forever. So that's the one thing that's got going for it. Now, Fuzzy, you were a part of the conversation last night on Xbox. You got the Here Hard Geet. We went back and forth with him.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't like in disagreement in any way, shape, or form. He just had a real outside perspective. Kind of on the he had a satellite on the opposite side of the world from what we were looking at, but we were seeing a lot of the same things. He just was coming at it from a different direction that I thought was very interesting. So when you saw Square Enix come out with this, again, give me what it said to you. What is Square's intention with this type of statement here? Whether it be for acquisition, or whether it be a cry for help, or is it just them acknowledging that they're way behind the times and that they are trying to find a new way forward by themselves? And then, does it make sense for Xbox to make an acquisition of Square Enix?
All right, for the first part, it's basically a oops, we bad, we made a mistake. It's they've pretty much self-harmed themselves before they even sold off. What do you call it? Oh my God,
Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal.
Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal and Square Montreal and so forth. They were already beating those devs down in the worst way, in public, yelling at them, and they didn't even do anything wrong. They just basically didn't meet the overly high expectations that Square had set for them, because I guess they were looking at those studios as possibly saving the house, or saving the company type of thing. But once they offloaded those, they just basically shot themselves in the foot. Like, they're saying that the region that they've spent so long focused on just isn't enough. It almost sounds like the way Sony was saying, to their player base, we're going to have to find players outside the console space. So Square is going to have to find customers outside of their home, region, and they got rid of the biggest source that could help them with that, if they probably let them do what they were doing all along and continue to iterate on things like Deus Ex or Tomb Raider and so forth. So they basically sealed their own fate. Now, that being said, this is kind of like a cry for help, much like we've even seen Platinum Games do, and they got their own controversies themselves. But Square, I think at this point, it's almost like they're starting to realize their sugar daddy, Sony, hasn't been paying all the bills like they said they would, type of deal, or staying true on covering the card note, or whatever the case may be, because it just seems like they went to Sony, like kind of like what we briefly discussed yesterday. Xbox wasn't in the best space in 2014 through 2017, when those deals would have been inked, as far as for Final Fantasy VII and so forth. So at the time, Sony was the best prospect. Xbox was looking like they may go out of business. So I can understand them, buddying up with Sony, not just for the camaraderie within their region, but that's the meal ticket. Those are the ones that are going to be able to foot the bill type of thing.
Sure.
Fast forward 5 to 7 years later, and it's like, hey, this ain't it. This ain't covering anything or enough of things to keep this to keep the lights on or to keep this ship afloat. So I always thought in the long run, Sony was going to be the one to buy them, and it almost seemed like they were doing all the moves to be more appealing to Sony. Like it was almost like they were putting on the short dress or something for them when they got rid of Crystal Dynamics. So it's like now that Sony didn't put a ring on it, yeah, I guess they are kind of up shit's creek kind of thing. So they're going to have to figure it out. I can't see somebody like Tencent swooping in. Just culturally, I can't see that happening. No. Sony is, probably the best prospect. Nintendo is another good prospect, but I don't know at this point if Sony hasn't already sealed the deal. And don't tell me that they're afraid of the whole CMA, outlook on things as far as if they're going to buy. No, it's not that. There's something else going on behind the scenes, and I think it's a matter of Sony is kind of like, yeah, we got all the milk we need out of that cow, so out to pasture with you type of thing. So maybe Nintendo steps up, but to harken in on the whole Xbox and Square type of deal, if that were to come about, they both benefit. I mean, they're going to benefit in numerous ways. Xbox is going to have that studio in the East. They're going to have the influence in the region. They're going to have access to a lot of IPs that they've been missing. Now, granted, they're going to probably do the whole, honorable thing and honor existing contracts until, they expire or whatever. But still, that still opens the door to all the things that Xbox kind of needs more of, or to gain any more momentum in that region. It gives them, easier access to that. And on the flip side of things, much like Cargill had brought up, it's like if they're looking for funding, what better way to kind of secure that funding than to be brought into a subscription service model like what Xbox has with Game Pass and their first party studios, where it's not about how many copies you're moving, as long as people are subscribing and engaged. Like I'm pretty sure there's more of an engagement equation behind the scenes that would show that, okay, you guys are still earning your keep because we're getting this kind of engagement. We're getting people to, continue their subscription. We're getting people to, buy the cosmetics or the DLC and things like that. So in the grand scheme of things, either side would benefit from that deal. Now, would I want to see Square do it? I mean, much like you, other than the, scorched earth type of deal, I'm indifferent on Square. If they do, great. If they don't, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter to me in that regard. Me being more of a Sega kid growing up, I would much rather see Sega be the target if Capcom is no longer on the table, because as we said, they've kind of fixed their own situation.
Yeah.
Will Square fix their own situation? Not with whoever's running that ship right now. It doesn't seem like that's in the card. So I think it in the grand scheme of things of how Microsoft has been moving lately, outside of being this long drawn out thing with ABK, it is prime picking for them to get Square because pricing is going to be the best it's going to be. They're hurting, so it makes it easier to negotiate a price that isn't going to be as high as a Capcom or as high as a Sega or as high as a Konami or anything along those lines. And considering with the Japanese market there, I think there would probably be some pushback from whether it be politicians or what have you over there as far as acquiring a Sega, just for the fact that is kind of like a pillar in comparison to Square. Although Square, I would say, is almost as old, but it just, I don't know. If there's an announcement that Square is acquired by Xbox, I'm not going to not be happy about it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But the grand scheme of things, I think there are much better in terms of what I'm interested in. There are much better alternatives in that region that may cost a little bit more, but I think will pay off more. But as Hargeet pointed out, and we I guess it was either Psychonauts that looked up about the whole mobile aspect.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that considering Xbox's grand plan,
Right.
that's almost like a perfect match, and
Yes.
it's funny how it's like it slipped under the radar for all of us.
Right. Yep. No, and I agree. And I think you got to throw one more potential suitor in there since you started listing off potential suitors too.
Mhm.
The Savvy Games group out of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
Remember, they've earmarked $13 billion for
Yeah.
a
Oh yeah,
publisher,
yeah.
right? And so that is another potential here. Whether or not Square Enix would be interested in that, what's interesting is that we all thought Sony was in the bag for Square. Them
Yeah.
coming out with this statement tells me that nothing's in the bag right now. That
Yeah.
that maybe Sony has rebuffed them, or maybe Sony hasn't even approached them,
Yeah.
or maybe they came in and the offer was low, knowing the position that Square is in intimately, right? Being so close to Square, they have inside baseball information, right? They have a lot, and maybe they lowballed them, and
Yeah.
Square is putting this out there to try to drive some more bidders to them. You know, I'll cap it off with some quick thoughts of my own, then we can move on. I've talked about Square at length on many shows. Again, I love their IP. I hate their decision making. And that's been the problem. If you're not going to cultivate an audience, and I always talk about this, if you're not going to cultivate an audience, you're going to find yourself in this position. And cultivating an audience with Eastern style games does come with risk. It does come with the fact that you have to put yourself out there, and maybe the first time you do, you're not going to get the sales that you necessarily want out of that IP, but you got to trust that you've grown your fan base to a certain extent, and that the next IP, you're going to grow your fan base some more. We saw this. We've seen this again. Square, for whatever reason, hasn't looked at any of their Eastern brothers and sisters over there and realized what they've all been doing. Bandai Namco is a key one, and so is Sega. Sega
Mhm.
decided to bring Yakuza to the West when they never thought Yakuza would make it. In fact, they've come out now publicly and said they thought Yakuza Like a Dragon was going to be a failure in the West. It turned out to be one of their biggest IPs. Why? Because they used to their advantage Game Pass to bring that style of game over this way and to increase the fan base. And now all of a sudden, they've got a huge fan base growing on Xbox. All of a sudden, Yakuza Like a Dragon was one of the best sellers for a period of time on Xbox when nobody thought that would happen. And then what happened in turn? Oh, they went to their own company, but again, Atlas runs themselves, and started showing numbers. And all of a sudden, Atlas decides to show up with Persona, right? And starts to show up on Xbox. And all of a sudden, we see it drop into Game Pass. And already you can see the explosion of Persona love beyond what they even expected. So again, that takes time. And then you got Bandai Namco starting to bring the Tales series over to Xbox, and of course dropping new IP into Xbox as well, and seeing their sales go very well, and then turning around and dropping it, in fact, into Game Pass, and talking about how well the reception was, how much engagement they had on those titles. And it's just like Square ignored all that. We did see them drop Dragon Quest XI into Game Pass, and they talked about how many new people were playing Dragon Quest, but then they just ignore it and they go back to their random decision making, right? They just go back to the seemingly random decision making, not bringing certain titles to Xbox, and it doesn't make any sense. Octopath Traveler, you bring in the Game Pass, you talk about the engagement, you talk about how great it is. Octopath Traveler 2 is announced, skipping Xbox once again. If you can't cultivate a fan base by randomly dropping games. You have to be consistent. Inconsistency means that people are going to get invested. Gamers get invested into characters and into franchises, and all of a sudden they start to get themselves invested, but then they don't know if the next one's going to be there. Well, that pulls those customers back away, and they don't know for sure, right? And you can't have that insecurity. But that's Square's, their aversion to risk. They don't want to continuously make that commitment if they think it's going to cost them. And they might be in such a bad spot financially. They really can't make those risks. They can't take those risks. You do need a partner, Square. I hope you figure somebody out. I hope you find somebody. As far as Xbox goes, again, my initial thought was I'd love to see Square Enix, to see the world burn, all that kind of stuff. Scorch Earth, it would be fun as hell on Twitter. I also love their IP, so I think it'd be a great spot for them. But with Hargeet, what Hargeet was talking about last night, coming from a different perspective, bringing up the mobile, which I knew they were a big mobile publisher. I didn't know they were that big. I just never really thought it from that aspect a lot. It was never in the forefront of my brain because obviously when you say Square, you don't think mobile. But finding out more detail about their mobile publishing, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Would it be my first choice? No, like all of us here, it would not be my first choice. Again, I still think Sega is natural. I think maybe any of the pushback they would get from the Japanese government on Sega would be kind of poo-pooed, or it would be kind of put to bed, because Xbox has shown they allow whoever they purchase as a big publisher to run themselves anyway. So Sega would continue to exist as it is, and it would continue to do what it does over there with minimal impact from Xbox or Microsoft as a parent company. And I think that would be a big thing that would go towards that. But overall, if the acquisition was to go down, yeah, I would love it because I think that Xbox would grow Final Fantasy. Again, I think Final Fantasy would be one of those franchises that stays multi-plat. And then some of their other franchises that have not had the opportunity to go multi-plat would go multi-plat, including on Xbox, including on Switch, some of the ones that have skipped Switch. I think that that's what Xbox would do with them, is they would grow some of those well-known franchises even further into worldwide credibility, which a lot of them already have the name recognition. They might not sell 20 million copies, but under Xbox, I think you would see growth from a lot of them. So yeah, it would fill a need for Xbox. It would guarantee that those big IPs come to Game Pass, which is the main point of all this. Plus, you get that mobile side of things, which would be a huge boon to what Xbox and Phil and Satya have been talking about for 2 billion, 3 billion people. And it would give you that instant credibility and respect over in the East by having Square Enix underneath the umbrella. So yeah, it makes sense to me, but again, sad to see in 2022. And again, a lot of it's self-inflicted, like Fuzzy was saying, self-inflicted damage by Square Enix. I just never thought we'd get to this point that Square, to me, with this, is begging out here, asking for somebody to come help them. That should never have happened with, a publisher that has as much historic IP as Square. But hey, that's the game industry. It's take no prisoners. It's rough out here. Adapt or die, as we always say, and Square did not adapt. So that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you all, brothers.
Awesome. No, once again, great topic, chat. Let us know. Mods, can we get that? I don't know what the hell is going on in the chat. Can you guys grab that for me? But great topic, man. Great topic. And we gonna now let Fuzz lead us into the next topic, man. Wrapping it up for the night, man. Fuzz, it's on you, brother.
All right. So this one kind of touched it a little bit yesterday as well on Xbox Ultimate, but I'm gonna go past my rant. I'm not going to do the rant again. I don't know if anybody watched or cared to hear about how I feel about the UI. We're going to move on past that part. But in the grand scheme of things, Xbox over the past 10 plus years has been reworking their UI and reworking things here and there within the actual controls on the Xbox itself. Aside from the UI, which, with the controversy that we've seen where user made ones versus the one that they keep, putting in the testing rings, it seems like unanimously more people prefer the user created ones. But aside from that, and aside from getting news or an update of the capture app, to kind of replace the DVR that's been in need of repair or replacement for some time, what other items within, I guess, not necessarily the ecosystem per se, but something within Xbox relating just to the console itself as far as form or function would you like to see change over the next few years? I'll start with you, Mav. As far as anything, as far as the controls or interactions or layouts or things like that, what other things do you think that they need to work on past the UI and past the capture app?
Oh,
Oh, is Mav on
is he
mute?
there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm here.
All
My
right.
bad. Yeah, I was gonna say the capture app was the low hanging fruit there, but you canceled that one out. So, man, that's a good question because if you really think about it, they have so many different things to offer. It's hard to find something that you specifically think is missing that they need to have. It's
Mhm.
more about how it's presented to me, and that goes into the UI aspect. So I got to cancel that out. So let me think about this, okay? Because this is a interesting question. I I think that if you really want to tackle like at heart what my biggest issue's been with Xbox the last couple years, it's more about messaging and delivery, right?
Mhm.
So that you can go, I mean, that's not really hardware based. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but there's a disconnect a lot of times between when they say they're working on something versus when what would we actually end up experiencing down the line. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Yeah.
then a lot of times we're like, hey, let's we're gonna tackle a game DVR, we're gonna tackle this, and then it's like you don't hear from it for about a year and a half or so, and then you get like some little update, and it's like something that nobody ever asked for to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, where is this going? So I feel like there needs to be more of a direct line of communication between like user feedback to where
Mhm.
we know that that's what's being what they're working on, as opposed to it seems like they're always working on these little left field projects and they're implementing these little features. And it's like, that's cool.
Mhm.
But what about the stuff that matters? You know what I mean? What about the stuff that matters? So I think a user feedback system would be really good and
Mhm.
within the console itself, right?
Yeah.
To be able to have them ask questions like, "Hey, what are you looking for in like a UI or what are you looking for with the next feature? What should we be working on next or what do you want to see improved the most?"
Mhm.
Within there so it has some more feedback. I understand they do some things with the insider programs and stuff like that was
Yeah.
just direct, but that's such a small subset of the audience, you know? Man, I feel like the apps that now this isn't UI related, right?
Right.
One of my biggest complaints is the with also with Xbox, and this is probably because it's Windows based, the consistency of the apps just being just working 100% of the
Yeah.
time, right? Like it's a frustrating experience sometimes. Like, oh, this app takes too long to start. What
Mhm.
does that mean? Why? Why do I have to hard reset my
That is
Xbox?
annoying as hell. I ain't gonna
You
lie.
know,
Yeah.
it's like, come on, that and really that's the only platform you have to do that stuff on. And it's like you get used to it, so it becomes not a big deal thing or whatever. But it's like little aspects like that. It just seems like the UI, like the whole interface and the experience on the dashboard experience as a whole, not just the layout of the UI, but just it's just always a little bit buggy. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It's always a little bit buggy. And I think that's one thing that why people want the streamline thing is because that way we can have it a better, smoother, more consistent experience, right? And I
Mhm.
know we all deal with these same issues. You know what I mean? Because like we're in party chats and they're like, "Oh, damn it, this is happening," or like this is happening, and it's like, "Yeah, I deal with that too." You know what I mean? It's like it's just these just little things, these little bugs that all kind of add up to kind of like a clunky feel. You know what I mean? Other thing is the handshake between HDR and within the dashboard itself needs to
Mhm.
change. Like it's so freaking irritating seeing, and I deal with it in my other room when I play a lot because I actually I when I play when I'm not here streaming I play on like a projector,
Mhm.
right? And the handshake on that thing between the HDR is so freaking annoying, dude, because it actually like will go blank for like 10 seconds and say no source and then have to relocate the source all over again.
Mhm.
And that's when you launch even Netflix or if you like launch a game or whatever.
Mhm.
So there's these little aspects. It's hard to point to one thing, man.
Yeah.
It really is. But that would probably be it, man. Just these fine tune it, like just get it streamlined That's all. That's all. That's all I'm asking for. And I think that's what would help a lot of people with some of the experiences they have.
Yeah. Nice topics on or points on that. And I know one of those I know Pong was going to bring up as well. But yeah, like if they had some sort of like priority list, like I know a lot of smaller devs now have like a site where they show like their to-do list on things that are priority or things being worked on or things that are further out and stuff like that. Maybe something like that
Yeah.
would be a nice, like at least have it as like a checkbox or a checklist type of thing that, all right, we know the HDR thing, it's after a few more UI related things they'll go ahead and take a look at that type
Yeah.
of thing. But
I feel like the UI would be better if it just wasn't as buggy. Even that's the
Yeah.
main thing. Even the rewards app bugs out all the time. You know what I mean? It's like that's frustrating. Even though I love it because it gives us so much value,
Mhm.
sometimes it's like fighting it to get it to work right. And then one other thing I add to this fuzzy is like they did say that they had stopped working on FPS boost games and
Mhm.
stopped working on back compat stuff because I would really like them to find a way to like keep some kind of form of that program going
Yeah.
because it adds so much value to the games that we own. And maybe they did tap out on the amount that they have access to,
Mhm.
but I feel like it was such a key part to those that first year and a half on the platform
Mhm.
for Series X that I feel like if you can add some element to that to keep that going and some kind of consistent pipeline of some things added, even if it's just like one here and there, that would be really, really cool.
Yeah. And even if it winds up being something kind of like what they're going to do with Fallout, where it's like a almost like a free, HD remaster or free upgrade for next gen type of thing. Just at least have at least one of those a year, possibly, or at least keep any future acquisitions where it may have been like off limits before. See if they can't get it squeezed in because I know there were a few Activision ones that were, I guess, Activision had turned down type of deal, and we'll see what they do after they actually own the building. But moving over to you, Pong, what things would you like to see Xbox work on, whether it's something system related or interactions as far as for their user base or just within the console itself? What things outside of like the UI and outside of like the capture device, what
Yeah.
other things would you like to see them kind of
Well,
take
Mav
the
stole
horns
all
with?
mine. Mav stole all mine. So,
Oh, okay.
he went on and on and on and stole them all. Listen, the handshake has got to be fixed for sure. That is awful. The app's not working, especially the reward section. Listen, I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but if you hit an achievement, because I play late at night when I get home, right?
Mhm.
But I don't play as late as I used to. But this is always a problem on the weekends too. If I'm playing late at night and I get an achievement, and you go to the reward section to claim the daily achievement, 50 points, it
Mhm.
doesn't work after midnight.
Yep.
It doesn't work. You can't claim it. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. Gamers
Yep.
are up late out. We're night owls. Why does that not work? So stupid little things like that. But let me try to figure out something different. Listen, paid advertising. We should have paid advertisements on the front of the UI. I think that would be great. I'm just joking, obviously. I
We
don't
got that
want.
already, Pie.
Yeah. Well, kind of, but I'm saying obtrusive ones like YouTube. Like I can't see my UI until I watch an ad. That'd be great. No, let me go here. I think that I want everything to be more intuitive. I don't like the blade system to me was more intuitive than what we've currently got. Again, I don't
Mhm.
spend a lot of time in the UI, but I gotta say, just from a standpoint of finding what I want, whether it's in the store or whether it's on my front screen, yes, I know you can pin things, but it just should be overall more intuitive. Like going through like the Game Pass app is like ridiculous. Like it's like I can't find like I'm just want to see up front the games that are current that just launched. But I have to scroll down to get to those. Like that makes zero sense to me. Like most people are going to hit the Game Pass app to find the most current games. Like, why is
Mhm.
that not front and center? Like, that should be the first thing. And then if I want to deep dive, I can go find those elsewhere. Like, that to me, stuff like that is crazy to me. I'd also like to see them have some type of, and I know they've got a news section, kind of, right? They've got like this weird calendar section where you can see upcoming stuff. I want a current, like, world premiere section in there that's easy to find, that you can go to, where like the Age of Empire stuff drop. Now I know sometimes on the front screen you do get the latest, advertisement or trailer that you
Mhm.
can select, but I'd like one spot where I can see like the Age of Empires news and I can rewatch that whole thing through my Xbox like instantaneously, or the new Redfall trailer that dropped in the middle of Age of Empires. I want to see a spot, like a world premiere spot, where you can go there and you can watch all the latest and greatest stuff. Yes, I know Xbox Wire exists. Yes, I know
Mhm.
they have their own YouTube channel, but I'm saying through the console. I think it would be fantastic to have a section like that when big news is dropping. Um, and then my other two, people are going to be divided on these, whatever. I don't care. If avatars still exist, by the way, folks, they're still there. You can still customize your avatar, but Xbox has completely forgotten about avatars. I think there should be a way for those of us that do customize our avatars, that did earn a ton of things during the Xbox 360 era for sure, to
Mhm.
have our avatar appear on my front page. Like my little dude just standing there, right? I just like to see that. Not just in the achievement section when it's comparing me next to my friend, but just there. I would like the option to turn him on. Maybe he can walk around my screen a little bit, whatever. I don't
Oh, like
care.
Clippy.
Yeah, like Clippy, right? He just pops up, right? I would love to see the avatars be taken seriously again. Again, not
Mhm.
everybody, and I didn't even spend that much time on my avatar, but getting those little rewards from games for achievements or whatever it was cool. And I like to
Mhm.
show them off on my front screen, right? That's something I like. And then of course, this has been something that people have talked about. Achievements should be updated. um, you took the time to create something that was very cool, and I'm not even an achievement hunter, okay, per se, but we all know the little bit of adrenaline rush you get when that achievement sound pops on the screen.
Mhm.
Whether you're an achievement hunter or whether you're casual, there's something special that happens when you do get an achievement, whether you were actually looking for it or whether it just happened randomly that you didn't know you were going to get it. It's super cool. And they have not kept up with the times. Why don't they have it like Sony, where when you hit an achievement, it automatically records that moment, right? Why not? I'd love to be. I
Mhm.
share things out all the time. I'm a picture taker, screenshots and in photo mode on these games. I share it out. I'm one of those people that helps promote things on Twitter. Why not have the ability when an achievement pops to have a short little recording automatically happen that I can share out instantaneously and say, how cool is this, right? Because normally it's a pretty cool moment. Sometimes they're dumb, but sometimes you get really epic moments, like beating a boss, right?
Mhm.
Why should I have to remember in the middle of, in the middle of my joy of beating a boss or whatever the case may be, to remember to actually share or to save a clip of it, right? Why not just have the system automatically do it at certain points in time? I think that would be really cool. In the achievements, you should have some type of reward system for the achievements, not just the score, but if you get certain achievements, you should have like a pin that's added specific for that game. You can pin, let's say 3 or 4 of your favorites to your, gamer tag, right?
Mhm.
Just something cool like that. So those would be my main ones right now that I can think of offhand, since Mav took all my main ones.
Those are some good ones as well. So I definitely would like to see an update to the achievements, like you said, with pins, because I put a lot of hours into games that I can't.
Yeah,
There's more achievements to get. Like I've
right.
gotten almost all of the achievements in just about all the Forzas. There's a handful of them where it's like, oh, beat 20 people from the back of the pack to the front of the pack. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that anytime soon. But outside of that, yeah, something that would be a nice update or to differentiate. Hey, this guy plays all the Forzas, or this guy plays all the first person shooters, and has this amount of gamer score from it, or whatever the case may be. So that would be
Or a
pretty cool.
lifetime award for some of these games that are time sinks, like, hey, you hit 100 hours in Division, right? Or hey, you hit 300 hours in Division. Just something that you could pin that was like, yeah, this is what I play. Like, this is my favorite game. This is what I do, right? I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. So PTK, I know some of these are probably some of the ones that you've also looked at as far as things you'd like to see improve. But what other things would you like to see Xbox work on or improve, whether it's in the ecosystem or the function of the console or whatnot?
Well, they've covered a lot of great points, and I honestly don't think I have any ones that are different. So I think mine more is optimization. I'm right along with Mav, right? I know we talked about the size of the UI currently, and I know we haven't really dove into that, but just some of the other things that more like you said, being more intuitive, the UI being more intuitive, make more sense, being able to find certain things, optimizing what you do have. I don't know about you guys, but I have noticed a lot of ads as well. A lot more ads than I remember. Obviously, that's a whole nother conversation, but that's not necessarily desirable either. I'd like to see an option, for maybe you to get rid of some of the ads, or maybe give us the option. You know what I mean? To get rid or hide some of the ads. Some
if you
type
ask
of way to do
Pong,
that.
make us pay a little extras to get rid of the
Oh
ads.
Lord,
That
no,
was
we
the
don't
thing.
need
Yeah,
That's
Pong.
what he
No,
wanted.
premium UI experience. That's what I want.
No, we don't need Pong.
Like YouTube Premium. Come on.
No, we don't. We don't need those. We don't need those ideas. But no, yeah, just a lot of it's optimization, man. A lot of this stuff is super obvious. We've been talking about the DVR for forever. A lot of other things forever. I do agree with Pong. We don't talk about the achievements enough. Some people bring it up, and I'm not an achievement hunter either. So I don't really have a horse in that fight, or dog in that race, essentially. But I do think that they could do some cool things with it's about time. Maybe some new animations for the achievements, maybe some actual live animation, depending on the type of achievement. Maybe a character pops up and does something cool, or, I don't know, do something, maybe, since they have the rare achievements maybe pop up and do something a little different besides a little diamond. I don't know, maybe just little cool stuff. Maybe your avatar pops up and does like a thumbs up or something cool.
Now you're talking. I like that, PTK. I like that.
Utilize your avatar. You know what I mean? Because those, like you said, they allow us to customize them, and they got all these cool features, but they're essentially buried. You don't see them on the home page. You don't see them on the dashboard. They're not really a part of the dashboard at all, the UI at all. So I'd like for them to maybe give you an option to, bring that to the forefront. Maybe, have an option, maybe make the dashboard a little more customizable, maybe remove some of the tiles, maybe, use a couple tiles to put your avatar there. And then, I don't know, some type of cool, way to restructure, so, not too crazy, but, maybe something like that. But a lot of the other stuff is just optimization, more snappy, make it work a little smoother. I know Mav brought up a bunch of great points as well too. So yeah, I'm with both of them. I think a lot of it's just maintenance and more common sense changes. Because like you said, a lot of times, this is another thing Mav brought up too, and I want to bring this up. Communication, right? Matt brought that's huge, right? We get little bits of information, and they treat this is a huge part of our experience. This is what we walk into the door when we turn the console on. It's the first thing we see is the UI. So sometimes I feel like I don't know how high on the laundry list it is, and it's kind of weird that it's not a higher priority. Yeah, sometimes, just in my personal opinion, it feels like it sometimes. Now, they've done a lot of different things with the UI, but I do feel like it should be a higher priority at this point. And I asked you guys a few months ago if we need a completely rehaul of it over the UI, and I don't know what the answer was. I don't know if Pong, you said yes or no. I think you guys said no.
Yeah, no, I said I don't spend enough time in the UI to care that much that we need an overhaul of it. But again, if you're going to do it right. The point here is all the feedback from the community, all the ideas from the community. It's like they
Man,
said in the
they-
boardroom, we're going to do the opposite of
Yeah.
that. Like that's what it appears to be.
People
Like,
are giving you ideas. Like, here, take this, please. Take
They're
this
doing the
idea.
work for you as
Yeah,
far as
they're doing the
design.
work. They
even,
got
like,
they got
yeah.
videos. They got functionality built into the video. Here's the blueprint. Here's everything. They're giving you everything.
The thing is, a lot of the concepts don't work for what they want to do for their advertising, or the things they want to work for putting in all these other things. So it's like a lot of the user concepts are like what we want, like our dream, like UI.
Yeah.
Then what they got to do is figure out how to get as close to that as possible, instead of just doubling down on what we didn't like, is what they did instead. You know what I mean? But they added little cool features that nobody really ever really thought about to even ask for. It's like they're living in their own little UI world where this is what they want to do, what they want to work on, and they implement the additions or new features within that world. We want a different world as far as the UI, as far as a lot of what the audience has asked for. Some think that everything is perfect and nothing can be criticized, right? Within Xbox and stuff. But I feel like there's always room to make things better, and it would be awesome just for the little things that can be annoyances or things that we would like to see better, make our experience even more amazing, right?
Yeah, like one of those examples for me is on the Elite controllers, how you can change the color of the Xbox button. That's cool. I enjoy that. I wish PlayStation did something like that as well. They used to a long time ago when you had different players play on different controllers, and then they patched that out for some stupid reason on the PS4. But having the color change on that button, awesome. Did anybody ask for it? I doubt it. But people have definitely asked for the DVR to be fixed or the HDR handshake to be, worked on. Have the dashboard in HDR or something along those lines. But yeah, there's a lot of little nice add-ons that they do. But then when it comes to like the big picture, it just seems like the UI, and I know I went into a bit of a rant yesterday, but it's like there's like advertising that makes sense for the customer. Like, honestly, I don't want to see anything advertised on my Xbox that isn't gaming related. Like, if you want to show me new controllers, I'm fine with that. Show me games that, even if they're not really the ones I'm normally playing, show me ads for that. The last thing I want to see is an ad for Old Spice. Like, really? I don't want to see that on my dashboard. It's not the end of the world, but it's like you're wasting your time, because it's not something while I'm playing video games I'm thinking about deodorant. Like, that's something I normally think about outside of video games. But I don't know. Maybe there's people that forget that there's deodorant and while they game or something. I don't know. But as far as the overall, I would definitely like to see them either do something with the avatars. Like, I like Pong's idea as far as having like the guy, either on the dashboard somewhere, or like you're saying, where if there's an achievement pops up, it gives you a thumbs up or something. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
When we had the new avatars, I really thought that we were going to see something along the lines of like a Mario Kart, but with our avatars, or like the 1 versus 100, which I know they've kind of hit a few bumps in the road. So I don't know where they are in production on that. The one guy that was, I guess, head of production left or something. But, the avatars really should be used more than just as a either or for the user pick type of thing. Like, there's just so much, potential there. And it seems like they spent a lot of time and money programming those new ones to not really use them for anything. So but my grand scheme of things I would like to see outside DVR and the UI is something relating to, like, I guess, watching space. And I think they've kind of fixed it, but I still have some issues where if I do an update on a game that's on the external or on the storage card, it moves it to the internal sometimes. Like, if I already have a Series X game on the expansion card, do the update there, especially if I have room, because I purposely leave room there. But sometimes it moves it, or if it's a game that's got an update but it's on the external, I don't necessarily want to move it to the internal to do the update. It's like, can I not do that update? Or if I do the update, just keep it on the external? that's something I would like to see them, work on more as far as state space management. They are making some strides on it, but it seems like there are a few bugs every now and then when there's an update for a game. But awesome points, guys. I know we were going to have probably a lot of overlap because, in all honesty, for the past, I would say 7+ years I've been on Xbox, or 8+ years I've been on Xbox. I can't really fault them on a lot of things, but there are just some things that are glaring, like the DVR was one, but the HDR deal is probably on the high on the nuisance list versus like some of the other things that they're working on. But thank you guys for your feedback and input, man. That was awesome.
Awesome, man. Shout out to you, Fuzz, for taking us into that topic, man. And on that note, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up, man, right on the dot tonight, man. Perfect timing, man. Shout out to you, chat. Shout out to everybody that's been hanging out with us live, man. We're going to get into our guests first and foremost. Mav, thank you for hanging out with us, family. Last minute, man, coming through, blessing us, gracing us with your talents and your abilities, brother. Shout out to Caitlin as well for letting us borrow your time for a couple hours, too. We got to make sure we check in with the general of the house for sure. But shout out to the FSP as well. Everybody loved. They always hanging out in chat. But Mav, thank you, brother. Once again, man, coming through and wrecking shit as usual. Let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you having me as always, PTK. Like I said, your show's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm always glad to be here. And if you guys want to check out where you can find me and our podcast, where we do criticize Xbox at times, but also a lot of positive talk as well, it's over there on Fun Speculation. Xbox Ultimate Podcast, Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We have PM in the PM with my buddy Pong Soul right here on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Mondays, Fun Speculation Podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, like to stream a lot of games that I play and other things as well. So check that out, guys, and appreciate it.
Whoa.
I hear Fuzzy's doing some
Fuzzy's
streaming.
racing.
No, that wasn't me.
Fuzz.
That's
That's taking it back. It like feels like my teenage days right there, dude. Where you on the over on Royal Lane in Dallas?
No,
What's
he's
going
good.
on?
That's over here by the house, man. We
Oh,
got.
okay.
Wow.
No, it's a
Fuzzy's
straightaway.
things
It's a straightaway behind the house, so you get a lot of cars going
Oh,
by
nice.
pretty fast.
Funny, we all thought it was Fuzzy
Yeah,
instantaneously.
no,
Yeah.
right? Instantly, right? God damn it, Fuzz. Got caught playing GT7, huh? Yeah. Anyway, man, appreciate you. Thank you so much, Mav. Like I said, for allowing us to, borrow a little bit of your time. You family, man, always coming through. This will not be the last time you see Mav on a podcast, man, like the unofficial member of the podcast anyway. So shout out to you, brother. Hope you have a phenomenal weekend. Once again, chat, you know what to do. Go show some FSP love. It's family over there. So you got to go subscribe. You got to like, do all that good stuff. I left all his information down in the description. So go please follow them over there. Thank you, Mav. Once again, appreciate you, brother. So we're going to throw this over to one of my brothers. Let's go throw this over to you, Fuzz. Another awesome show, brother. Let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Oh, just awesome being on here with you guys and everybody in the chat interacting with us. Definitely appreciate having Mav on here tonight. It was awesome having your takes on things and everything. So can't wait for the next time you're on with us. And well, I'll be on with you on FSP first thing on Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on your channel, and then on Breakfast with Boom 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday on Double Barrel Gaming, and then later on that night, Xbox Ultimate at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FSP or Fun Speculations channel, and then right back here on the Shop Podcast with PTK and Pong. My two brothers from another, I guess you could say.
Yeah, appreciate you, Fuzz, man. Once again, coming through every single week, bringing that smoothness to the Shop Podcast, man. Thank you for hanging out with us as well, man. Last but not least, Mr. Pong Harvey, the battery of the Shop Podcast, bro. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Absolutely great show. Obviously, always a good time to have Mav on. Even though I talk to him a lot, it never gets old, and love hearing all of your takes, brothers. And this is the place that I want to be on Saturday nights. So this was amazing. Chat, you guys were incredible as always, coming through, all the familiar faces. Love to see it. Thank you all for being here and supporting our show. Again, nothing without you. So every week it's love and respect for all of you that swing by and say hi. So, and if you were lurking, love you just as much. If you listen to it in the future, same goes there. Love you just as much. So thank you all. But you can find me Pong Soul, you know that, on Xbox and on Twitter. And of course, you will be finding me sometime this week. I don't know if it's going to be Xbox Factor. We'll see if I can make it work. But you know what? You still got to check out Double Barrel Gaming on Tuesdays. Actually, you could check out Double Barrel Gaming 5 days a week now because Mr. Boomstick is a Terminator. He never stops. He just continues to go every day. But Tuesdays, it is Xbox Factor Podcast, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. All good things green every Tuesday there. Go watch it, please. It's a great show. And then, of course, Thursdays, as Mav said, PM in the PM, Pong and Mav in the PM every Thursday night. We have been on a streak of a lot of good guests. I think this week will be just back to me and Mav, unless he surprises me. But last week, this past Thursday, if you missed it, we had royalty in the house, King David, representing ILP. It was an
shout out to
amazing show.
ILP.
Yes, sir. We got King for an hour and a half of our show. Mav and I went for about 3 hours, I think. But we got King for the first half of the show. Absolutely incredible, as always. So go check that out if you haven't already. But this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time, be there. We have a blast on Thursday nights for sure. And then back on Fun Speculations channel for Xbox Ultimate on Fridays. Yes, I was in the captain's chair last night. And yes, we had Hargeet Channy on as a guest, and we had great conversations. Again, the one on Square Enix went a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but it was fantastic. So check us out every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time, Xbox Ultimate. And then you know the drill for Saturday mornings. You got to set your alarms because it's early. But we're going to give you the energy. Me and my brother from another Steel Rain are coming at you live, raw, and uncut on Living Split Screen every Saturday morning. Mission 1K. We're trying to make Steel play Callisto Protocol live on stream if we hit 1K. So we got to have some help. So be there every Saturday. Tell a friend, bring a friend, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3 p.m. BST time, 3+ hours. We're consistently at 4, but you never know what's going to come up. So we always say 3+. So buckle up. We had another great show this morning. Go check it out if you haven't already. Lots and lots of great conversation today, not only between me and Steele, but with the chat as well. We had a lot of good things coming up. So be there Saturday mornings. And then, of course, right back here Saturday night for the Shop Podcast. No better place to end your Saturday night than right here with us. So again, it's the golden age of gaming, people. This is getting crazy. Shout out, we didn't get to it, but shout out to Microsoft and Xbox for bringing Age of Empires. RTSs are coming back to console, something me and Mav have been beating the drum for. We finally got the announcement. We're not only just getting Age of Empires 4 next year, another AAA game coming next year, first party. I don't care if it's already out on PC. For me as a console-only player, it's another AAA game next year. It is going to be massive. But they're also giving us Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition come January. So right out the gates, we're getting something special. If you're not an RTS player, that's cool. I get it. But guess what? It's going to be in Game Pass. Download it, check it out. You might find yourself loving it. Mav and I are going to be streaming the hell out of that game. I'll tell you that much. And I think I've even got Steel convinced, Mav. He talked about this morning.
Oh,
he
really?
Might join us. Yeah, he used to be an RTS player. He might be ready to come back into the fold. So
we'll get him.
We're going to have a lot of good times with Age Empire. So shout out to them. But it is the golden age. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great rest of your Saturday night or Sunday. And you know what? Get out there, play what you love what you play. And we're going to talk to you all real soon.
Awesome, man. Shout out to you, Pong, for bringing the energy every single week. And last but not least, your boy PTK Blam, the host with the most. Across the board, PTK Blam on Twitter. Hit me up on YouTube as well. Appreciate you guys. Once again, look for the link tomorrow for the Anchor.fm. If you for our audio-only listeners, I'll post that tomorrow, man. I appreciate the continued support there. I know you guys are just getting used to that being a thing. So anybody that goes over there and supports, that information is in the description as well. So that's fairly new. So please do that. We appreciate you guys once again. As Pong said, enjoy your weekend. Have a great holiday as well, everybody. Please be safe. Have fun. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Later.